Hello. In this video you will see the most incredible footage of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. I will not show blood or dead bodies. You can subscribe to the channel for updates about this conflict. I'll try to give you my Estonian soldier perspective. Let's go through the videos together. This looks like fireworks, but it's actually not fireworks. It is Russian thermite bombing. These munitions explode about 30 meters off the ground and release thermite particles which fall to the ground slowly, covering a huge area with slow burning fire. These fires are very difficult to impossible to put out. They usually ignite anything that can be ignited in the area. This strategy is not aimed at the Ukrainian army, but rather the Ukrainian civilian infrastructure. It is a war crime. This next one is a not before seen video of the crash of Russian fighter jet Su-34 in the Russian city of Yeisk from the 17th of October 2022. Look closely and you can see and hear the pilot ejecting. This is his parachute. He was fine. The pilot later said that there was a fire in one of the engines and he had no control over the plane. It crashed into an apartment building, a Soviet-style banelka, with people living inside. There were casualties. In this video we will witness how a Russian position is overrun. There is a Ukrainian tank with 12 infantrymen on top of it. Ukrainians have this tactic of driving full throttle straight up to Russian positions as close as possible. Then the infantry dismounts, as can be seen here, and then they push on with the tank. The troops in the Russian trench line probably don't have anti-tank weapons because they run as soon as the Ukrainians are closing in. The tank opens up with its heavy machine gun and follows up with its main gun. Then the infantry sprints forward. Russians can be seen here exiting the trench line to save themselves. Ukrainian troops jump in and the position is overrun. There were many Russian casualties. This is the administrative building in Energodar. This was a Russian missile connecting to the roof of the building, sending parts of the roof flying all over. Note how car alarms all over the town went off, lights blinking. There is a second impact to the ground so powerful that the camera, which is obviously from another building, shakes strongly. My friends, I do not have a sponsor today, but I want to give you something new. Start something new. I have a second channel called the Estonian Soldier Podcast, and the very first podcast will be with Jake Browie. I will upload it in 3 to 4 days, so stay tuned for it. Go and subscribe to the channel. The link is in the description below. He is a United States nuclear operations officer. We'll talk about the possibility of the nuclear war and this conflict also. If you're interested about my personal life, then the Instagram is best way to follow me, link in the description below. And now I want to thank the Patreons. I will read you 5 biggest Patreons. Fernando Saenz, Jott Kaksisve, Robert Keeley, Jonathan Teoch, Rai Slam. Thank you to these 5 people. They were the biggest Patreon. If you like what I do or you like this channel, Patreon link is in the description below. Thank you, my friends. In this incredible drone footage, we see a Ukrainian drone tracking a Russian drone. It's a drone duel. Let's watch it together. This drone that can be seen here is a Russian drone. It seems to have 6 rotors. Maybe it's trying to get away from the Ukrainian drone. It's coming. Ooh, you can see it very close now. Boom! That's what it is. Honestly, I've watched this video slow motion, I've watched it frame by frame. I cannot say what destroyed this drone. I strongly don't believe it was the Ukrainian drone, because Ukrainian drones are the same way, 6 rotors or 8 rotors, and they carry explosives that are dropped to the ground. They don't carry any weaponry that can be propelled forward like that. So I believe this Russian drone could have been destroyed by a manned pad from the ground. I don't see the missile here. Other than that, I have no idea what destroyed it. You might have better expertise in this area, so put it down in the comments. What destroyed this Russian drone? And the bits are flying all over. Look at it. What is it? There's no incoming missile. You cannot see it. Boom, it's gone. Of course, what detonated there was probably the explosive on the Russian drone that it was carrying to drop on Ukrainian troops. I didn't see anything flying into it. The next video we're going to watch together comes from one of the Russian mobilization centers, showing how the mass of freshly mobilized Russian men are coping with their new lives in the army. Let's watch it.
Вот сидят, блядь. Бутылочка водочки. кушать, греется у него, нахуй ничего не надо больше. Вот это на улице происходит. Ебать там народу, да? Вообще. Вот. Здесь вот просто все бухают. Этот, блядь, пьяный. Этот, блядь, тоже пьяный. Просто, блядь, мрази, я в ахуе.
To open up the context, alcohol has always been in the Russian culture a coping mechanism. If then anything very difficult hits the culture, hits the people, the first thing they turn to is alcohol. And it is especially true in the military. Although officially on paper you cannot drink while wearing the uniform in Russia, by law, nobody cares in Russia.
Везде вот такие поляны, нахуй. Ямный, нахуй. Я, блядь, в шоке, нахуй.
I also gotta say, yes, they're all drunk, but the positive thing here is they have beds. We've seen videos of Russian mobilized who are in the same situation, drunk but just on the ground, no beds.
Просто заходим в туалет, блядь.
That is mainly the situation all over Russia with the freshly mobilized troops. There are simply not enough officers to train them. There are simply not enough uniforms or weapons to be given to them. These fresh soldiers feel neglected. They feel like they're not cared about, and this is true. So they turn to alcohol. This is a battalion-sized group of freshly mobilized troops in the Tuva Republic of Russia. They have staged a mutiny, telling how they have no respect for authorities in Putin's Russia. The man in the front mocked Russian authorities in the Tuva Republic for the policy that they promised to give a ram, the animal, to every family who sends one man to be mobilized. He states that the men weren't even given enough socks. Also not enough walkie-talkies. How are they supposed to communicate on the battlefield? Putin is using this war to send dissidents, you know, the people who think differently from his regime, to die in Ukraine. Most mobilized troops come from republics under Russian Federation who have an entirely different language and ethnicity and culture. Ethnical minorities. This is the Tuva Republic of Russia. They have their own language, their own culture, ethnicity, which is not Russian whatsoever. They are 2,500 miles away from Ukraine. Putin is Russianizing Russia by prioritizing the mobilization of young men from ethnic minorities in Russia. We have a video to watch about a man from Great Britain who is now in Ukraine, in Mykolaiv, which is a Ukrainian settlement very close to the front line, bombarded almost daily with Russian artillery, cruise missiles or drones. This man has one of the most dangerous jobs one can have in wartime. His name is Chris Garrett. Let's watch the video. Whew. Chris Garrett, a former tree surgeon and bomb disposal. This is
since February,
this is Hurt Locker right here.
Began. Can you just take me through what you've been doing? You're currently in Mykolaiv at the moment. What have you been doing?
Sure. So over the last few months, I've been operating a volunteer EOD team, mostly made up of foreign volunteers and some Ukrainians as well. So we've been providing support, training and clearance for the Ukrainian armed forces and the Ukrainian police.
And what kind of things have you been doing with the EOD?
So volunteer EOD team. You might be asking also, why are they exploding or putting these munitions in the hole to explode? Why don't they use them? Ukrainians use as much of the munitions left behind from the Russian army as possible, but some of them have gotten rain, they're rusty, they're deformed, so you can never use all of them, especially if Russians keep their munitions outside, not under cover. You always gotta destroy some of them. How do you destroy them? You put them in a hole and you explode them all together.
Have you been doing, making safe various munitions? Take me through some of that.
So we're clearing up unexploded ordnance that was left over from the fighting at Homostel Airport. So we've got a mix of everything. We've got a lot of 23 and 30 millimeter unexploded rounds, lots of mortars, tank shells, pretty much anything you can imagine. It's here. There's explosive ordnance everywhere.
And why do you feel it's important to be here than frontline?
Right now, it's very hard to do any clearance on the front line, obviously because of the fighting, especially trying to work on.
So this clearance saves civilians' lives because civilians will be traversing these areas as soon as the soldiers leave, and these ordnance are just on the ground. They might explode at any minute. This man is risking his life voluntarily, so in my eyes he is a hero.
Under artillery, it's next to impossible to be able to do it, and because this is so close to Kiev, this is one of the places that will get opened back up sooner than other places in the east. And to me, I think it's more important to be here cleaning up the remnants of war than it is to be stood on the front line taking photos with guns and trying to tell the TikTok world that you're a foreigner that's come to save Ukraine.
So over the last few months, Chris, how many tons or how many unexploded bits of ordnance do you think you've deactivated or made safe?
I think since we started off with Ukrainian National Police EOD teams, we're exceeding 50 tons of munitions. We're talking hundreds of thousands of items.
And say, for instance, hypothetically speaking, we get to spring and summer next year and the war comes to a conclusion. How long do you think it will take before Ukraine is cleared of all the munitions that are dotted around? Is it a sense that this will be the same as the Second World War, that we'll still be finding these unexploded ordnance for years to come?
Yes, definitely. I would say right now, if the war finishes, from a humanitarian mine action standard, we're going to be clearing Ukraine for the next 100 years.
You heard it from the expert, for the next 100 years, and it actually sounds logical because from the Second World War munitions are still found. Of course, they have been underground for so long, very few of them have the potential to explode, but still they're treated nowadays as they would be treated if they were new. This is it, my friends. Thank you for staying with me and watching my videos. I really appreciate you. Subscribe to this channel to get Ukrainian war updates, and if you're interested about longer conversations in the topic, the Estonian Soldier podcast might be for you. It's in my second channel, link is in the description below. Also, you can go and follow my Instagram, also in the description, or become a patron of this channel. Until my next video, Slava Ukraini!